very quiet village, far away from busy cities and loud roads, there lived a man named Daniel. Daniel was not a very exciting person. In fact, many people would say he was one of the most ordinary people you could ever meet. Daniel lived in a small wooden house near a long dirt road. The road was not very busy. Maybe once or twice a day, a bicycle would pass, and sometimes an old car would slowly drive by. But most of the time, the road stayed completely empty. Every morning, Daniel woke up at exactly 6 o'clock. Not 6:01, not 5:59, always exactly 6. His alarm clock made a very soft ticking sound during the night. Tick, tick, tick. When the clock reached 6, it made a gentle ringing sound. Daniel slowly opened his eyes. He did not jump out of bed. No, Daniel liked to move slowly, very slowly. First he looked at the ceiling. Then he took a long, deep breath. After that he slowly sat up on the edge of the bed. Outside his window, the morning was very quiet. Sometimes a bird would sing. Sometimes the wind would move softly through the trees. But most of the time, everything was calm and peaceful. Daniel stood up and walked to the small kitchen. The wooden floor made a soft sound with each step. Step, step, step. In the kitchen, Daniel prepared his morning tea. He always used the same blue cup. Not a red cup, not a green cup. Always the same blue cup. First he filled a kettle with water. Then he placed the kettle on the stove. The water slowly started to heat up. After a few minutes, the kettle made a soft whistling sound. Daniel poured the hot water into his blue cup and placed a tea bag inside. He waited. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Daniel believed tea should never be rushed. While waiting, he looked out the window again. The sun was slowly rising above the trees. Golden light gently touched the grass outside. Everything looked calm, quiet, and slow. Daniel liked mornings like this. He took a small sip of his tea. It was warm, not too hot, not too cold, just right. After finishing his tea, Daniel decided to go outside for a walk. He wore his old brown jacket and stepped onto the dirt road. The air felt fresh. The sky looked pale blue, and the village was still very, very quiet. Daniel began walking slowly down the road, listening to the soft sounds of nature. A bird chirped somewhere far away. Leaves rustled gently in the wind, and Daniel kept walking, slowly, calmly, without any hurry at all. Daniel continued walking slowly along the quiet dirt road. The morning sun was rising higher in the sky, but the village was still peaceful and calm. He liked walking slowly. Not fast, not in a hurry, just slow, quiet walking. On the left side of the road, there was a long field of green grass. The grass moved gently when the wind passed over it. Soft waves of green moved across the field. Daniel stopped for a moment and watched the grass moving. He took a deep breath. The air smelled fresh, a little like wet earth and morning dew. After standing there quietly, Daniel started walking again. Step, step, step. His shoes made a soft sound on the dirt road. Not far ahead, there was an old wooden bench near a big tree. Daniel often stopped there during his morning walk. Today was no different. He slowly walked to the bench and sat down. The bench was old, but strong. The wood felt cool because the sun had not warmed it yet. Daniel sat quietly and looked around. There were no cars, no loud noises, no busy people. Only the quiet village. A small bird landed on the ground nearby. It hopped once, then twice, then flew away again. Daniel watched the bird for a few seconds. Then he looked up at the sky. The clouds were very thin and slow-moving. They moved so slowly that if you watched carefully, you could see them drifting little by little. Daniel liked watching clouds. Sometimes they looked like animals. Sometimes they looked like mountains. But today they just looked like soft white shapes floating quietly across the sky. After resting on the bench for a while, Daniel stood up again. He stretched his arms slowly. Then he continued his walk down the road. Soon he reached a small wooden bridge that crossed a narrow stream. The water in the stream moved slowly, not fast like a river, just a gentle, quiet flow. Daniel stood on the bridge and looked down at the water. The surface of the stream reflected the sky and the trees. A leaf slowly floated past, then another leaf. The water made a soft sound as it moved over small stones. It was a calm sound, a relaxing sound. Daniel stayed there for a long moment, listening to the water. He didn't think about anything important. He just listened. The quiet village, the soft wind, the slow stream. Everything felt peaceful. Finally, Daniel took another deep breath and slowly began walking back toward his house. The morning was still young, and the quiet day had only just begun. Daniel slowly walked back toward his small wooden house. The dirt road was still quiet, just like before. Step, step, step. The sound of his shoes touching the ground was soft and steady. When Daniel finally reached his house, he opened the wooden gate. The gate made a small creaking sound. Creak. Daniel didn't mind the sound. In fact, he had heard it so many times that it felt normal. He walked into the small yard in front of his house. The yard was simple. There were a few plants, a small tree, and a narrow stone path leading to the door. Daniel liked simple things. He walked slowly along the stone path and opened the door. Inside the house, everything was very neat and quiet. The living room had a wooden chair, a small table, and a shelf full of books. Daniel didn't own many things, but he liked to keep them organized. He took off his brown jacket and carefully hung it on a hook near the door. Then he walked to the kitchen again. It was almost time for breakfast. Daniel believed breakfast should also be slow and peaceful. He opened a small cabinet and took out a bowl. Then he opened another cabinet and took out a box of oats. Daniel liked oats because they were simple and warm. First, he poured some oats into a small pot. Then he added water. After that, he placed the pot on the stove and turned the heat on very low. The oats slowly started cooking. While waiting, Daniel stood by the window. Outside, the wind gently moved the leaves of the small tree in the yard. The sunlight was brighter now. The village was slowly waking up. Somewhere far away, a dog barked once. Then everything became quiet again. Daniel stirred the oats slowly with a spoon. Round and round, slow circles. The warm smell of breakfast filled the kitchen. After a few minutes, the oats were ready. Daniel poured them into the bowl and sat at the small wooden table. He ate slowly, one spoon at a time. He was never in a hurry. Between each bite, he looked around the quiet kitchen. The clock on the wall continued its soft ticking sound. Tick, tick, tick. The slow sound made the room feel even calmer. After finishing breakfast, Daniel washed the bowl and spoon. He placed them carefully on a rack to dry. Then he wiped the table with a cloth. Everything was clean again. Daniel liked when everything felt simple, quiet, and peaceful. The morning was slowly turning into late morning. What calm and ordinary things he would do next today. After cleaning the kitchen, Daniel stood quietly for a moment. The house felt peaceful, just like always. The clock on the wall continued ticking slowly. Tick, tick. Daniel looked outside the window again. The sun was higher now, and the light filled the yard with a warm glow. The small tree in the yard moved gently with the wind. Daniel decided it was a good time to do one of his favorite quiet activities, reading a book. He walked to the living room and stood in front of his wooden bookshelf. The shelf held many old books, Some had brown covers, some were blue, some were a little dusty. Daniel slowly moved his finger across the books, thinking about which one to read today. Finally, he picked a simple old book. He sat down in his wooden chair and opened the first page. The pages made a soft sound. Flip. Daniel began reading slowly. He didn't rush through the pages. He liked to read calmly, one line at a time. Outside, the village remained quiet. A soft breeze passed through the open window. The curtain moved slowly. Daniel turned another page. Flip. Reading made him feel relaxed. Sometimes he would stop reading for a moment and just listen to the quiet sounds around him. The ticking clock, the gentle wind, the distant sound of a bird. Everything felt slow and peaceful. After reading for a long time, Daniel placed the book on the table beside him. He stretched his arms a little. Then he stood up and walked toward the kitchen again. It was almost lunchtime. Daniel opened the refrigerator and looked inside. There were a few simple things, some vegetables, a loaf of bread, and a small container of soup he made yesterday. Daniel decided to heat the soup. He poured it into a small pot and placed it on the stove. The soup slowly warmed up. While waiting, Daniel stood quietly and looked out the window again. The sky was bright blue now. A few clouds moved slowly across it. Soon the soup was warm. Daniel poured it into a bowl and sat down at the table. Just like breakfast, he ate slowly. One spoon, then another spoon. The warm soup felt comforting. After finishing lunch, Daniel leaned back in his chair and took a long, calm breath. The quiet day continued moving slowly forward, and the peaceful afternoon was just about to begin. After finishing his simple lunch, Daniel stood up from the table and washed his bowl. The water from the tap flowed slowly, making a calm and steady sound. Shh. He placed the clean bowl on the rack and dried his hands with a small towel. The afternoon sunlight entered the kitchen through the window. The light was soft and warm, spreading slowly across the wooden floor. Daniel walked back into the living room. The house was still very quiet. He looked at the clock again. Tick, tick, tick. The afternoon had just begun. Daniel decided to open the window a little more so fresh air could come inside. A cool breeze entered the room and gently moved the curtains. The movement was slow and peaceful. Daniel sat down in his wooden chair again and closed his eyes for a moment. He listened carefully to the quiet sounds of the day. Far away, he heard a bicycle bell ring once. Ring, then silence returned again. Daniel opened his eyes and looked outside. The road in front of his house was still empty. No cars, no people walking, only the long, quiet road stretching into the distance. Daniel liked days like this. Slow days, calm days, days where nothing exciting happened. Because sometimes quiet days are the most peaceful ones. Daniel decided to spend some time outside again. He walked slowly toward the small yard and stepped onto the grass. The grass felt soft under his shoes. The wind moved gently through the trees. The leaves made a soft rustling sound. Rustle, rustle. Daniel looked up at the sky. The clouds were still moving slowly, very slowly. He took a deep breath of fresh air. The air felt cool and clean. Daniel began walking around the yard in slow circles. He wasn't exercising. He was simply walking calmly, enjoying the peaceful afternoon. Near the fence, a butterfly passed by. It moved lightly through the air before disappearing beyond the small tree. Daniel watched it for a few seconds. Then he sat down on a wooden chair outside his house. The chair faced the quiet road. Daniel rested his arms on the sides of the chair and leaned back slightly. The sun was warm, but not too hot. The wind was soft. The whole village felt sleepy. Daniel closed his eyes for a moment, and listened to the gentle sounds of the afternoon, the wind, the leaves, the quiet world around him. Everything felt slow. Everything felt calm. After resting outside for a long time, Daniel slowly stood up again. The afternoon was moving forward slowly, just like the clouds in the sky. He walked back inside his house and looked around the living room. Everything was neat and simple. Daniel liked to keep a small routine every day. In the afternoon, he usually did small tasks around the house. Nothing difficult, nothing stressful, just simple things. First, he watered the plants near the window. He poured a little water into each pot. Drop, drop, drop. The plants looked fresh and green. Next, Daniel took a small cloth and gently cleaned the table in the living room. He wiped it slowly from one side to the other. The quiet work made him feel calm. After finishing, he placed the cloth back in the kitchen. Then Daniel returned to his chair and sat down again. He looked out the window once more. The sunlight was starting to soften. The afternoon was slowly turning into evening, but everything was still peaceful, still quiet, still slow. Daniel took a long, deep breath and relaxed in his chair, enjoying the calm moment. Daniel sat quietly in his wooden chair and watched the sunlight slowly move across the room. The warm light that once filled the floor was now slowly climbing the wall. The afternoon was slowly turning into late afternoon. The clock on the wall continued its steady sound. Tick, tick, tick. Daniel stood up slowly and stretched his arms. He decided to make a cup of tea again. He walked to the kitchen, filled the kettle with water, and placed it on the stove. The kettle slowly began heating. While waiting, Daniel leaned gently against the kitchen counter and looked outside the window. The sky was still blue, but the sunlight felt softer now. After a few minutes, the kettle made a soft whistling sound. Daniel poured the hot water into his blue cup again and placed a tea bag inside. He waited patiently. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Then he slowly took the first sip. The tea was warm and comforting. Daniel carried the cup to the living room and sat near the window. He quietly watched the road outside while slowly drinking his tea. After finishing his tea, Daniel decided to take another short walk before evening arrived. He wore his brown jacket again and stepped outside. The air was cooler now. The sun was beginning to move lower in the sky. Daniel walked slowly along the same dirt road he had walked on in the morning. Step, step, step. The village looked even quieter now. A soft orange color began to appear in the sky as the sun slowly prepared to set. Daniel walked to the small wooden bridge again. He stopped and leaned slightly on the railing. The stream below still flowed gently over the stones. A few leaves floated on the surface of the water. Daniel watched them slowly drift away. The evening breeze moved softly through the trees. The peaceful sound of water and wind filled the quiet air. Daniel stayed there for several calm minutes, simply watching the world move slowly. After some time, Daniel slowly walked back toward his house. The sky was now changing colors, soft orange, light pink, and a little purple near the horizon. The sunset was calm and beautiful. Daniel reached his yard and stood near the small tree for a moment. He watched the sun slowly disappear behind the distant hills. The light became softer and softer. Soon the evening began to settle over the quiet village. Small evening sounds appeared. A cricket somewhere in the grass. A gentle wind moving through the leaves. Daniel went inside his house and turned on a small lamp in the living room. The warm yellow light made the room feel cozy and peaceful. He sat down in his wooden chair again and took a deep breath. The quiet day was slowly coming to an end, and soon the calm night would begin. Daniel sat quietly in his wooden chair as the evening slowly turned into night. The sky outside the window became darker and darker. The soft orange colors of sunset slowly disappeared. Soon the sky turned deep blue, then dark. Daniel turned on a small lamp beside his chair. The warm yellow light filled the room with a cozy glow. Outside, the village became even quieter than before. A gentle wind moved through the trees. Somewhere in the distance, a cricket began its slow night song. Chirp, chirp. Daniel listened calmly. The quiet night had finally begun. After sitting for a while, Daniel slowly stood up and walked into the kitchen. It was time for a simple dinner. He opened the refrigerator and took out some bread and a small bowl of vegetables. Daniel warmed the vegetables on the stove. The kitchen filled with a soft, warm smell. Soon his dinner was ready. He sat at the table and ate slowly. One bite, then another bite. The house remained peaceful and quiet. After dinner, Daniel stepped outside again for a moment. The night air felt cool and fresh. The sky above the village was full of small, shining stars. Daniel looked up quietly. The stars seemed very far away. The wind moved softly through the grass. Everything felt calm and slow. Daniel took a short walk around his yard. Step, step, step. The ground was cool now. The trees stood quietly in the night. After a few minutes, Daniel slowly returned inside his house. The warm light of the lamp welcomed him back. Daniel sat down again in his wooden chair. He picked up his old book from the table. The pages made a soft sound. Flip, he read slowly, line by line, page by page. Reading made his mind calm and relaxed. Part 16, The Ticking Clock. The room was very quiet now. Only the clock on the wall continued its gentle sound. Tick, tick, tick. Daniel closed the book and leaned back in his chair. The slow ticking made the room feel peaceful. After some time, Daniel stood up and turned off the living room lamp. He walked slowly toward his bedroom. The hallway was dim and quiet. Daniel changed into his nightclothes and prepared for sleep. Everything felt calm. Daniel sat on the edge of his bed for a moment. He took a slow, deep breath. The night outside was very quiet. The wind moved gently through the trees. Daniel lay down on the bed and closed his eyes. The whole village was now asleep. No cars, no voices, only the quiet sounds of nature. The stars continued shining in the dark sky. The calm night surrounded Daniel's small wooden house. Daniel slowly drifted into sleep. His calm day had finally come to an end. The quiet village rested peacefully under the stars. The wind moved gently through the trees. The clock continued its soft ticking. Tick, 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 and the peaceful night continued quietly.